this is Chris from Chrisandalexmodeling. Just a quick tutorial or tips on one of the not so pleasant jobs, cleaning your airbrush. We tend to find we do a lot of painting, and no matter what brand of airbrush we use, we've got several, I guarantee everyone will block up. The main reason for it, and I think a lot of people don't realise, a lot of the paintwork problems are caused by the airbrush being partly blocked up. What it is, I'll just grab an airbrush, doesn't matter which one. The Iwata, great little airbrush for £45, fantastic, very universal. But what happens, we've got, I'll show you several different brands of paint. We've got Tamiya's, we've got Model Air, say Humbrol. Just get around here. Those. Revell, Model Masters, Alclad. Then you've got your different primers as well, and what you find is you've got one airbrush and you use it for all those different paints, which, yes, it's fine, but what happens most of the time, you'll use, say, the Tamiya, not a problem, you can thin this with water or screen wash, Windoline or X20, not a problem. You'll think, oh, I haven't got the right colour in Tamiya, I'll have to use, say, Humbrol. Now that's an acrylic in a normal. Completely different thinners. If you put the thinners that you're using, your screen wash or Windoline, water into that, it will just make a horrible gooey mess. And the same the other way around. It's the same as if you've used polyurethane. What happens, the thinners tend not to be universal for them all. Some of them will mix, but if you leave the paint long enough, it does separate, and you'll find the paint and the thinners do separate. So it's not the best of mixes. Well, you've painted with that, you've decided you're going to use that. You'll put some of the thinners that you're using for that in the gun, blast it through, comes out clean. You think that's it. You'll then put some enamel with some enamel thinners, and you don't realise inside where the nozzle goes and the needle goes into the nozzle, it's never quite clean, and there's always a little bit of the paint that you've been using in there. And what happens, you'll put that in, and after a time this tries to mix with the small amount of paint that was still left from in there, and it goes all gooey or hard, and either then you're spraying, you press the trigger, it comes out, and then it slowly stops spraying, and you're constantly doing this to make it spray. You'll say on some of our videos you've seen it happen, that if you keep your finger on it just doesn't, or you pull it back and then all of a sudden a load of paint comes out. It's not a faulty gun, it's not your paint mix. People think, oh, the paint's too thick, I'll thin the paint down. And then you get to the stage where the paint's too thin, it runs, it won't cover right, you get very, very frustrated. And what it is, 9 times out of 10, it's partially blocked, not always completely. I say, what I do is a quick, if I'm halfway through the paint and I can't really stop, I'll undo the nilled nut at the back, push the trigger down with the air on and pull that back and forward several times. If it's a small blockage, it tends to push it out, lock it back up, and you can carry on painting, but you know it's only going to get worse. So that's the quick fix, but the only proper way to do it is to actually strip the airbrush down and clean it. The only other solution, and to tell you the truth, we could almost do it, is use one airbrush for one type of paint, use another airbrush for another type, and you won't come across a problem. You'll find you're using the airbrush for weeks and don't need to strip it down and clean it. We tend to find we're doing it every week, completely stripped down, just because we do use it so much and we swap paint so often. The one thing as well is clear. Sometimes you'll use an enamel or even Tamiya, and you'll put a clear over it to sealing decals and things like that, not thinking that, well, it's still a water based. And then you come to enamels, because you've got an enamel underneath or the other way around, poly blocks up, almost guarantee all the time, especially if you've got like 0.2 size needles and nozzles. The larger the nozzle tends not to be quite so bad. When you get to 0.5, 0.7, it doesn't block up quite so bad, but it's quite common. And a few tools that we use for cleaning, obviously. Well, I'll show you the airbrushes first, so we can different ways to clean them. There's the Neo. There's the Harder and Sternbach Ultra. Another really nice one. It's a reasonable price. And we've got nice, cheap, really reliable Chinese one, and an Aztec. With this one, I put the largest nozzle that you can buy for one in there, and that just stops for clear. So we never have the problem we have with the others, because we swap the paints around. This gun is just for clear. Now if you buy the cheaper compressors, a lot of them come with 2 spray guns. So if you've got 2 types of paint, it may pay to say, right, that one is just for enamels, the other one is just for acrylics. It solves this problem 9 times out of 10. So what I do with this one just has clearing. I never clear it, I'll just leave it in. Once it runs low, top it back up and leave it like that. Every now and again it will block up slightly, but I guarantee under the end, under the nut, pull a few times, it clears itself every time. Really, really reliable. Fantastic for doing clear. Got much better pressure and fan size than all of the others, so really good one. No problems with stripping this one down and cleaning it. This one is probably very similar to, I'll show you on this one, stripped down to this one, so put that to one side and you'll get the hang of it, but when I show you that one. Let's put that back in the stand, otherwise we'll let it be clear everywhere. Right, now I don't know if anyone's got an Aztec. They're unusual to use. Let's say the airline comes down this way and it feels just completely different to one of those, but the method they use, it's much easier to clean the Aztec guns out. All that you do, there's a tool, but I just do it by hand. Unscrew the end. That is the whole nozzle assembly, and that is the cup. The actual paint doesn't go through this part of the gun at all. It only goes in, through and through there, so this never needs cleaning out. You can actually have the pot on both either side, and also there's about 10 different size nozzles that you can use. This one's 0.4, and if you want to change, unlike those, changing the needle, the cap, the nozzle, all that you do is unscrew that and put, I'll just show you if I can get to one. I'll just have to move the camera a bit. Nice and simple. You just put another one in. Really easy. If you can, what I found, if you can only afford one brush, this was the first one, and if you look, you get lots of different size pots, several different sized nozzles, very, very small paint cups. Everything's available separately. I know like a new nozzle, the whole lot is about £9 compared to, you'll pay more than £9 for just for the needle, then you got the cap and that, so it's a cheaper way to do it, a lot more universal, especially if you paint lots of different types of paint. You don't have the problem of nozzles blocking up, because you'll use that nozzle for that type of paint and then you'll use a different nozzle for the other side, because I tend to find enamels you need slightly bigger like needle size than you do with the water based, so it solves it all in one airbrush. Quite good airbrush. Had it a long time, works brilliantly. Well, I've actually got I think 2 of those. So that's that. So to clean that one, just out, wash that in your Windoline, nail varnish remover, whatever you use, and to totally strip it down, quite easy, just pull the end out. There it is, there's the needle, and pull that there, and that's what the needle goes into, and that's like the end of your airbrush, this part. The inside part is that, which is the other part that's inside, like the nozzle, and that's your needle. Nice and simple, straightforward, and works really well. So it doesn't take long to do those. No tools really required. They do supply you with a spanner, but I tend to find hand tight's good enough. So if I put that to one side, then we've got the Ultra. This is probably the second easiest one to strip down. Unscrew the back. I slacken off, pull the needle back a small amount so that I know I'm not going to bend the end. Unscrew. And then those are the only parts. Nozzle, like the air cap, and then some people push it through forwards, and I think, to tell you the truth, it probably is a better way. I have actually found that the seals, if you pull it through backwards, you get a build up of paint on here, and you pull it backwards, you pull it through the seals, and you do damage to the seals. So out the front probably is the best, and if you can see, that needs a clean. I'll show you how to do it in a bit. I'll just push it back in for the time being, so that's nice and straightforward. Always pull it back so that it's not sticking out. That just goes into there, and then screws back onto the end. Push the needle back. So that's that one. Then we've got the Neo, the Iwata. Now this is more like the Chinese versions, where you've got the cap at the end, then that part, same again under the back. Get those mixed up. Undo slightly, pull it out of the way, lock it back up. You know you're not going to bend the needle. Under the air cap, same as the Chinese. Then there's this part, which is exactly the same as on the cheap Chinese ones. Now some of them you have to be careful, because you find they've got an O-ring here just to seal the air off. Some have, some haven't, so be careful with that. Then you've got the very fine tip on the end, which you have to do with a spanner. This isn't a spanner for this one. It's I thought this would be the same as on the Chinese ones, but no, it's not. I'm not going to undo it. I'll show you how I clean them without taking that off in a bit. So you just undo that, pull the needle out at the front, or if not, at the rear. Just be very careful you don't bend the points. And done screws. So I'm cleaning there with a cotton bud. So that's that done. I'll just put this back in so it doesn't fall apart. Do it very gently, make sure you don't bend, and don't push it through too far. Screw that back on. The tools I use for cleaning the nozzles, I'll leave that like that, because I'm going to show you how I do clean them. If you haven't got what I use, things that you can use, actually, like you've got cotton buds, which will actually clean that part and in there, no problem. Just using thinners. Here it's a bit more difficult, it goes to 0.2 mil. What I do, I get a container, just put some clean thinners in, and use one of these, which is those. I do them in several different sizes, and all that you do in the thinners, and then actually goes in and actually cleans the inside of there. That will fit several different sizes, so nice and simple, nice and cheap. Pound shop for for £5. For a bit more serious blockage, you can actually buy these, which if you look, it looks just like it's a reamer. It's ground off flat on one side to a point, and you do it very carefully. You push it in, it actually comes out, and just rotate it slowly, so if there's any paint build up it will ream it out. So a serious blockage, that will do it. Then go back round with the brush. I got this off eBay, I think about $2.50 with postage from China. Been a godsend when you do get a real bad blockage, because when you're doing it with a brush you're just pushing the blockage more and more up the tip, and you just can't get it out. That really does the job. And what I've bought a few weeks ago, I found it to be absolutely brilliant. I saw Alex from Alexmodeling use one. I thought I'd got to give one a go. And it's that. It's a ultrasonic cleaner. Several sizes. They do them from about £4. I think it was Home Bargains. I got battery powered ones, smaller than this, but the airbrush still will fit in. Take the needle out and it just fits in. The only difference, it's battery powered, obviously not so powerful, and all the inside on the cheap ones is plastic. On this one, obviously, stainless steel, or chrome, stainless steel, I should imagine. And it's got a timer that you can set. So what I do is I'm going to plug this in up here. I get the airbrushes, put all the parts in. I've done these that many times, I know which one goes with which, so. But I always take the valve off. With the water, just pull it apart, put the separate parts in, cap the cup, take the O-ring off and put that one in. Take the valve off that one as well. If you put these in gently, these don't fall out. Just say unscrew it, pull the needle out, and then what I always do, they are two different size needles, so if you're putting more than one airbrush in, oops, I'm going to just shot. Let's move that down a bit. If you've got more than one airbrush, back there, check the needle sizes, because if you look, they look the same but they are different. So the Ultra has got the shorter needle. I better write it down just by the end of it, I might have forgot. I say normally if you only got one airbrush it's not a problem, but if you're putting several in at the same time it's best to know which one does what. Then all I do is drop it in like that. I'll leave all the trigger mechanism in, tighten that up so it doesn't fall off. Drop it in the bottom, move that out of the way. Might as well drop those in. With this one I'll just undo that part, and what I found is I don't need to take that off, it cleans it without taking it off. That, we'll put this in, and then the two needles as well, just about fit in. The thing to do is make sure the dimensions of one, if you look, everything's in there. It does come with several, here they are, baskets, which you think it'd be better to put it in the basket because you won't lose the parts, but there's a reason for it. And what it is, right, and what you do, it's all down to the cleaning fluid that you use. They tell you, you can actually buy the stuff. It's mainly designed for jewellery though, and what I find, if it's dried on paint, especially enamel, it won't touch you. I've tried Windoline, I've tried the screen wash, I've tried everything, washing up liquid, hot water, it doesn't do it, but you probably shouldn't use it. So I'll try using the things that you're supposed to use first to see whether it does work for you. But I was using what I was using for thinners, this nail polish remover. Now this is probably, let's put it through here, it's going to be very silver because last time I cleaned, I just did this just to try and filter a bit of the silver out the paint. It had got, cleaned the guns that well, but all the silver that was in the gun, let's take that out because it might, the reason I don't risk it with any, it might melt it, I don't know. I haven't actually took the chance. The good thing with having the silver, you can actually see how it works. So it probably won't filter the silver out very well. No, it doesn't. If it does a little bit, it's better than nothing. Put that over there. Just got some. Put this a bit in as well. Just how one bottle normally does it. It's just show you. Let's see. Let's say the cups. If we look, the cup there has got paint on it and that, and round the bottom. I'll just put it in. I won't touch it. Then close the lid. Set the timer. So I'll put it on to 180 seconds. If you look, you can actually see the way that it cleans it with the ultrasonic waves. Now, with the battery powered ones, it just seems to be vibration. With this, it seems completely different. With the mains powered ones, they are a lot better. But the fact that the thinners actually dissolves the paint, and the actual ultrasonic waves break it down into the liquid, makes it much better. One thing I did find, which that's why I put more in this time, if you put a small amount in, it does start to get warm. The longer you leave it on, the hotter it gets. Now the only problem is it is highly flammable, I should imagine. What does it say? Yes. So obviously there's a flash point. We've got nowhere near the flash point, but if you put a very small amount in without a timer, I wouldn't like to say what would happen, but with one bottle in there and a couple of guns, everything beats stainless steel, it absorbs the heat and it doesn't get warm. But when you take the things out, they are, normally I'll do 300 minutes, I guess I've done it for 180, but this is the way I clean them. I'm doing it now once a week, but I do use the airbrushes an awful lot. This weekend we painted, Alex painted his M113. We did some paint work on the what was Alex's other one? Meteor. It was the Hunter. I've painted, primered and painted part of the Lightning. I've also painted and lacquered the Tornado, plus all the stowage and that Alex has done, and other bits and pieces. So we do use the guns an awful lot, and this, they do block up because we are swapping from one brand of paint to another all the time. But this is the only thing that we've found that actually does do the job. It actually cleans it, and that they are like brand new. The same majority of paint problems are caused by the gun partly blocking up. You know when it's completely blocked up because no paint comes out, but it does make a lot of difference where you pull the trigger, nothing, too much paint and you've got to run, or you're painting and it just as though the pressure's just dropping off. 90% of the time is caused by the gun not being clean. So make sure you clean the guns. Another method is if you just drop them in a metal container with some sort of thinners, just leave them soaking. Use a brush. Just do one more. Use a brush, some cotton buds, and then what I tend to do, I'll then empty it all out, wipe them all off, put some of the screen wash and that in, and drop them back in, because the problem with this, thinners, and I think it's what causes all the problems with the polyurethane primers and that. It's the seals. It seems to dry the seals out and then they start leaking, they go brittle and snap. So what I've done, once I've done it in this, because it's quite harsh on the seals, I'll tip some of the Windoline screen wash in there, just run it through just to swill all the nail varnish remover off, the acetone, well it's acetone free, the nail varnish remover off, and they're fine. If you don't, what you'll tend to do, crystal clear, there's no paint on those whatsoever, but the actual needle will stick to the seal because it's dried the seal out. There's like no lubrication on the rubber anymore. So, you know, I suggest that if you do use thinners, give it a blast through with, all you got to do is, you can still assemble it, just drop some of this in a cup, put half a cup through, just to lubricate the seals again, and you find they do last much longer. I learnt the hard way also about pulling the needles out the back. It does damage seals. If you push it forward and through the front of the airbrush, it doesn't damage the seals anywhere near so bad. So that's a few things that we found out. Well, recently in the last month or so. But to save all this problem, if you do have two airbrushes, which you do with a lot of the compressors these days, they give you two. Put one for acrylics, or one for enamels, and one for clear. You just try and separate them, and you won't have half so many problems of blockages. I'll stop it there. But if you look at that, no paint on there whatsoever, absolutely nothing round the bottom. Not my dirty finger marks over it just, but it has got every bit of paint off. So there's that one. Yes, I wouldn't keep using the silver. It just shows, it just lets you see, but that's it. You can tell how much we use them. We've only had it about a month, and we've already worn the coating off. You know, that's not a cheap Chinese one, but we do use them all for that. Let's get a bit of tissue. The only other thing is, if you're going to do this, I suggest do it outside, because I think I'm that used to the smell now. I take no notice, but it can be quite smelly. If you've got that, it's like brand new. Even in there, you'll say no brushing, no nothing, just straight out. I say you saw that we've got paint all over it. Absolutely perfect. I say, and on the because these cups really stain really easily on the Aztecs, but in there for, well, we had 180, about 250 seconds in it, yeah, and that's it. Everything comes out like new. Really, really worth the investment. This one, if you go on eBay, you can pick some up cheap. I think I paid about, these are normally about £30. I paid £15 for it. You just need to measure the size just to make sure that you can actually get the needles in that way. There you are. So you've not touched it and every bit of paint's off. So hope this was helpful. If there's any questions, just stick it in the comments, or just send me a private message, and if I can help, I will do. So thanks for watching.